Hey, we back. I'm here on Discord. I'm Karuta. I'm on the dojos. We're talking about some dojo strategies today, as promised. And I'm just gonna, in this video, go over what I think is probably the best strategy to go for, what you need to do in order to get those skills also. And this should help you make a good fighter for your team so you can beat everyone very easily, or at least at the moment all the AI. Now, as an example here, I will be using my Eris, who is currently not a very high level, because as you see, I ascended her recently. In fact, that will probably be a video at some point. We'll see what happens. But yes, I have a lot of perks on Eris that are what you should probably be going for. I spent a fair bit of time re-rolling on Eris to try and get the perks that I wanted. And so that's the first thing that I'm going to talk about. When you're making your fighter, the first thing that you want to do is reroll them in order to get all the best perks. Now there's two ways to do this. The first way is to look down something like your affection list. I've said before that you probably want your fighters to be someone that you visit often, either a worker or a koibito, so you can heal them up for free. Now you can buy salves or you can buy bandages or whatever in order to heal them up, but if you can get it through the visiting system and it's free, that's obviously way better. And if you're just starting out, you're not sure what you're doing, you might be losing a lot, and you're probably going to want to be healing as often as possible. So getting AP for your fighters is pretty useful. Using my Eris here, I've got a little bit of AP. It's not anything major, but it's enough that I can heal her up periodically. And since my Eris has a reasonable strategy, I don't need to heal her up too often. So yeah, you roll down the list here and you just register all of the fighters. So if I check my KC, we can order by level, and you can see that I have registered a lot of fighters. There are a lot of very low level ones. We've got a level 4 Rem here, a level 3 Aluka, and then a bunch of level 1 ones as well. And these are all people that I know you don't know what these tags mean, but trust me, these are tags for people that I like a lot and therefore are in my affection list, or my tags for workers, in which case of course they're a worker and also in my affection list. And you roll down this list until you see the perks that you want. We'll be talking about what perks those are shortly. And then once you've got the perks that you want, you stick to that fighter. The other option is if you go to actions, there is a rebirth and ascend, right? Rebirth costs 30 damage dust, but resets the experience level, and ascensions, also all attributes and perks, allows a change of technique. Now, with the change of technique, you do not have to use a scroll. If you've already used one on the fighter, you can just reuse the same technique for free. And of course, if your experience level and ascension are all 0 anyway, then it doesn't reset anything, which is great. Of course, you will still have to pay that 30 damaged dust though, so it's a bit of a toss-up. Do you want to pay 30 damaged dust to rebirth the fighter, or do you want to pay 1 ticket to re-register a new fighter? The exchange rate is actually pretty similar. Funnily enough, this is pretty balanced, and 30 damaged dust is roughly equivalent to a ticket, so it works quite nicely. What you do is you go to the perks and you find out what perks you've got. Now, the level 1 perks are actually the most important ones. This is for 2 reasons. Partly because, of course, as you grind from level 1 to level 100, and maybe even further, you are going to have the level 1 perks the entire time you're grinding. Whereas these level 95 ones down here, you don't actually get to use them for long before you can ascend or something, so they're not actually as important. The other reason is, for all the other levels, you only get 1 of the 3 options. Whereas for level 1 you get all 3 potentially. So if you've got 3 good perks here, it's really good to take all of them and then keep them all the way through if you can. I managed to get crowd favorite, which is great, got adaptation, which is great, and I got soul drain, which is great. Let me quickly go over the reasons for why. Openers are just fantastic. I would highly recommend making sure that you have at least 1 opener in your skill set here, preferably near the start, because openers are great. The 2 that I would recommend is either crowd favorite or grand plan. Both of these are fantastic openers, and the strategy that we're going here is buffs, basically. Go for buffs. By the way, technique, I should have mentioned this. You probably want to go for spirit or balance. Spirit and balance are probably the best ones for this. You go for the buffs. They work well late game. It's good stuff. So yeah, there you go. You could even perhaps go for mimicry, but I don't know. Endurance is also nice, but it doesn't actually fit the buff strategy too well, to be honest. I just think it's a really good technique. Anyway, yeah, balance and spirit is the ones you want. Now, for your opening, you want either crowd favorite or grand plan. You can read crowd favorite here. It just grants you 2 vigor, costs 1, so that's free energy, which is fantastic. Grand plan is just a buff. You get a strength, an agility, and a reflect, is it, I think? Which is just fantastic. And it also costs 1, the same as crowd favorite. So yeah, both grand plan and crowd favorite are fantastic. I would basically say you have to get one of the 2 of them in your perks. And then what you're looking for is a surge. So we're going to skip slightly ahead. You see I got my surge at level 10, which is early enough to be pretty nice. You are going to want your surge as early on in the levels as possible. And to be honest, if you get both of a surge and an opener in your first maybe 15 levels, you're probably good to go. That's probably good enough. That's what I'd aim for. But of course, you want to aim for better than that if you can. And there's some other things that we can look out for as well. So let's take a quick look at the other ones that I've got. You're going to want some block, just in general. Some good block is adaptation, because it gives you a cover, and cover blocks more than the default amount of block, so adaptation is nice. Another good block is wrestle. That one costs 2 energy, and I don't actually have it on Eris, but it does damage and block, which is fantastic. And you can also go some heal ones as well, so I think I got some early healings. We've got healing wind here, and I think I've got a bandage later on as well. Yeah, there you go. There it is. Bandage wound, which is also quite nice. They're just healing items, and yeah, some block and some healing is good. You're going to want some of those, so that's good. Soul Drain is also a fantastic one to get at the start because it does damage and also heals. And this scales off level. This is really interesting. It scales exactly the same way as the damage does, and I'm pretty sure the way it actually works is if you buff your damage with something like strength, I'm pretty sure it restores more health, which is fantastic because we're going for buffs right now, and restoring more health is great. Pretty sure that's how it works. I may be wrong, but either way, it's a great spell. Worth noting that it does cost 3, which is kind of expensive, but it does also apply a confuse, which is great, and especially early on this is great because early on you're going to struggle against the higher level enemies. If you're only level 1 and you're fighting up against a level 10, that's a really big difference. But if you can confuse them and get them to hit themselves, you don't even need to worry about not having much damage because they're damaging themselves for loads, and you're great. So yeah, confuse is really good. I would recommend getting Soul Drain early on if it's there. So yeah, that's why I've taken Eris here, because those 3 level 1 perks are just fantastic, and we got the Surge at level 10. I consider myself very lucky in this case. There's a couple of other things that you're going to want to look out for, because buffs are no good unless you're using them well. So you're going to want some damage, and the way that the strength works means that it works really well with cards that don't do much damage but do it multiple times. So what are we looking for? Things like double KI burst is a great example. Double KI burst here deals 4 damage by default twice. So this is, 8 damage, which is a reasonable amount of damage. It's okay. It does forget after you've used it, and of course it costs an energy, so it's a fine perk. But if you've got some strength, it will doubly affect the strength, which makes it way better. So things like this is exactly what you want to look out for. Another example is double cut, which is basically the same thing, but it's less damage, doesn't have the forget, and doesn't cost the energy. There are also triple versions of both of those. So there is triple KI burst. I can't remember what the triple cut version is because it's not called triple cut. It's called something else, but it's basically just triple cut. And yeah, if you get those, it's great. Unfortunately, I didn't get any of the triple versions on Eris, and as you can see, my double cut on Eris is all the way down at level 90. But the double KI burst is a little early on, so that's nice at least. And what I did manage to get early on is Stance Ninja. Another thing you should look out for is kunais, because what a kunai is a free action. As you can see, it's another deal 2 damage, which is not very much, but it gives it for you for free at the start of every turn. And kunais are free actions, so as soon as you use it, it gives you back your action point. It also costs 0 energy, so you can use as many kunais as you have in your hand. You're not limited to 3 per turn. And so the ninja stance, giving you a kunai at the start of your turn every turn, is not just 2 free damage per turn, because that would be pretty good already, but it's 2 free damage plus your strength, which is even better. And of course this scales with level as well, which is fantastic. Kunais can be acquired through other means as well, so we have the stance ninja, but if I scroll down a little bit, we will also find hidden blades, which gives you 3 kunais, and you see the description for kunai there as well. This one costs 2 energy. But yeah, the kunais are great. And of course, this is 2 energy for 6 damage by default, which is not very good. But once you've got some buffs and the kunais are doing extra damage, this is loads of damage. It's really fantastic. So if you can get yourself a hidden blade or a stance ninja, you can see I managed to get both. That's also going to put you in a really good stead for using the buffs. Another thing that I will recommend to you as just a general tip, another thing that I have on Eris is the level 25, 50 and 75 ones gives you a perk instead of a skill. Well, I guess these are all perks, but it gives you a permanent buff. I guess that's what we'll call it. And second chance is ridiculously overpowered, honestly. I would highly recommend getting second chance if you can. Again, I'm very lucky that I managed to get it on Eris. What this does is before you get injured, as in before you die, once per round you may not get injured. Set your incoming damage to 0, set your health to 1, and remove all negative status effects. So it basically just allows you to not die this turn if you're going to die. This is really good because if you work out that you are going to die this turn no matter what you do, you can just go all out with the damage, and as long as you kill your opponent that turn, you win, because you don't die, you get your health set to 1, and then they die. So that's really good. And of course, worst case scenario, you don't kill them, and then hopefully you can carry on living for a little bit longer, maybe get some healing off or something like that. So second chance is fantastic. If you manage to get that, that's also something you want to go for. That's not necessarily a synergy with the buff strategy at all. It's just really good, and I would highly recommend getting second chance. Another nice one would be Mulligan. It's not quite as good as Second Chance. I didn't get it on Eris. I've just had to move over to my Yang to show this one. But when you end a turn without using any skills, your enemy's turn is skipped. This is really nice if you get affected by something like chains and you're not able to use skills, or you would take too much damage. It just means that at least your enemy doesn't get to do anything either, which is quite nice. It is also once per round, but realistically you're not going to be skipping that many turns, so that's fine. Another one that's good to mention for this strategy is Fool's Luck. I haven't got this one on anyone yet, so we've moved over to perk info for this one. But when you forget a skill with a 15% chance, heal for 4 health. This by default isn't that good. The last 2 we talked about are just good. This one is kind of meh, but of course if you've got a lot of kunais that you're going to be forgetting, kunais, you do forget them. If you've got ninja stance and hidden blades, you could quite easily be getting 4 kunais per turn. This could turn into quite a lot of healing, so that's worth noting. I wouldn't recommend using it if you don't have kunais, but if you do, it's pretty nice. And the only other thing that I'm going to say is that you basically just want to surge as often as possible. Surge is hugely overpowered, is basically the point of all this. You use perks that work well with surge, mostly cards that do multiple damage hits, such as triple KI burst and stuff. You try and keep yourself alive with a bit of healing and a bit of block, but it's not hugely important. You take stuff that's good with kunais as well, such as Fool's Luck, and I would highly recommend, if you can, trying to get multiple surges as well. I only have one. I would love to get another, and that's the main reason that I'm trying to ascend my Eris a bit. If I can roll a second surge, that's going to be great. But yeah, as long as you get one early on, that's really good. And if you can get yourself a Grand Plan 2, then that's even better. Of course, like I said though, the crowd favourite is pretty nice, especially with the current setup that I have on my Eris. I end up having a lot of cards that I want to play that I wouldn't have been able to play without crowd favourite, such as a Ninja Stance turn 2. Ninja Stance costs 3, Spirit normally gets 2 energy per turn. Well, now I get 3 on turn 2 because of the Vigor, which is nice. So it's just little things like that that work out nicely with crowd favourite, and if you are going for this same strategy, you'll probably find you get similar results with that. But crowd favourite is not going to be as good as Grand Plan, so if you can get Grand Plan, take that instead. But realistically, you don't want to have more than one opener because you can only use one, and so if you do find you have 2 openers, it's probably worth re-rolling one of them as well. There's always going to be a few that you don't manage to get to the perks that you want. For example, my level 30 here on Eris, I don't have anything that great. Barrage is quite nice because it's got a relapse, but I actually already have a barrage somewhere else with Eris, and Ignite and Discourage are not something that helps with this strategy at all, really, so would not recommend them. That being said, I can just not take any of these three and it's fine, and I'll just keep re-rolling this with an Ascension, hopefully get another Surge at some point. Anyway, I think I've said everything that I wanted to say, so hopefully that gives you the idea. You can go and use this strategy as you wish. I'll probably do more videos on other types of strategies. I would say this is the best strategy at the moment. That's why I'm making the video on it first. You could say it was the meta. At least as far as I'm aware, it seems like everyone that has been using dojos would say that this is the way to go. But I will certainly make videos about other interesting strategies. You could go for a big healing build, and there's a couple of nice instincts that work well with that. I did check, they're called instincts, the level 25 ones. And also splinters, hey, that's fun. But anyway, I think for now I will be leaving this video here. Bye!